Hey, what's good, fam? It's Kyle Henderson and Andrew. Well, my goodness, it's been like one thing after another as we continue to get you prepared for week one of the college football season. I can't believe it's finally here. You got Alabama taking on Missouri this weekend from Columbia, Missouri. Kickoff is at 6 p.m. TV as ESPN. Tons of coverage back at BamaInsider.com. Bone, what's up, man? How you been?
Hey, what's up, Kyle? How are you doing this week, man? You finally ready to cover some football?
Oh man, I'm so excited, and we got tons of great stuff lined up for you at BamaInsider.com. So stay with the YouTube channel, stay with BamaInsider.com. We got some great stuff lined up for you on Friday and Saturday. You do not want to miss it. So now is a perfect time to hit that subscribe button and become a member of either right here on YouTube or at BamaInsider.com. Tons of stuff going on. But as you know, everyone, we talk recruiting with Bone on Tuesday. And as everyone knows, I mean, it's a filled up class, almost 21 commitments, still number one in the rivals.com recruiting rankings. Bone, before we get started, I just dropped a video on William Anderson. He's a freshman at Alabama, continues to make waves. He's actually listed as a starting outside linebacker for the defense, which is really incredible. Kind of paint the backstory about William Anderson. He was obviously a five-star, but how much hype and maybe it wasn't even hype, but what did we know about him before he even came to Alabama, and kind of talk about his recruiting process, because he's absolutely killing it right now.
Yeah, this is a guy that had 40 sacks during his junior and senior seasons combined. I mean, an elite pass rusher, very hard coming off the edge, and he's a big kid. I mean, he's I think he's close to 250 pounds now at Alabama. Very physical, just very quick. He's somebody that Alabama fans are going to quickly fall in love with. We knew about him, early on in his recruitment. He was a top priority target for Alabama, very early throughout the spring. And I think, possibly one of the reasons why there wasn't just a ton of attention on him was, didn't really go to a ton of camps, but also, didn't have that Georgia offer. And, sometimes that plays into it a little bit. If there's a kid from the state of Alabama that goes out of state that doesn't have a Alabama offer or an Auburn offer, sometimes they get a little bit overlooked. But I think with William Anderson, he just continued to ball out every single time he stepped on the field. And then he played in the U.S. Army All-America game and just had an unbelievable showing down there. Not just in the game, but every single day at practice, just brought his A game, and he earned it. I mean, he was a five-star for a reason, and you never know how some five-stars are going to turn out. Once they get on campus, but I think he's certainly a guy who's going to turn a lot of heads this fall, and I think a lot of Alabama fans are going to be very excited about William Anderson.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. As you know, Tuesday we talk recruiting, and I just wanted to get Bones' take on William Anderson Jr. just because, I mean, he's been dominant at fall training camp coming in. It's always impressive to see these freshmen, but to see a freshman actually come in and start right off the bat, it certainly says a lot. You also got Malachi Moore, who's a freshman, who will also be starting at the star position, probably Brian Branch as well. So tons of coverage on the team front, and we'll talk team tomorrow night on Wednesday during our team show. And I'll take your calls and we'll have a good time. And I got something special planned for you tomorrow night. Bone, we're starting to get some questions in. Now is a great time to post your recruiting questions for Andrew. And Bone and I were kind of talking about this before. We might go 30 minutes on some of these shows going forward, just because the class is full. And then we might, we'll get together as a staff and kind of figure out the direction as we push to 2022. But right now, with there's so much, commits on board, there's just not a lot going on. But you guys love recruiting. So do we. So we're going to talk about it. And we got our first question coming in tonight. And it's from Daniel, and asking about Amarius Mims, obviously one of the top offensive linemen in the entire country. Bone, kind of what's the latest? And, Alabama fans, of course, would love to get their hands on Amarius Mims and have him join this electric class.
As we all know, Alabama has one of the best offensive line classes. Well, the best offensive line class in the country right now. It's certainly one of the best in the Nick Saban era, with 4 elite offensive line commitments, including Tommy Brockermeyer, J.C. Latham, both 5-star tackles. You have T.J. Ferguson and James Brockermeyer to round out the class so far. They've always kind of thought, get 4 or 5 offensive linemen in this class, but get 4 or 5 really special guys. Well, adding a commitment from Amarius Mims would be absolutely huge for Alabama. It would put them in the category of potentially the best offensive line class of all time if they're able to get Amarius Mims on board. But as many people kind of assume, it's been kind of a Georgia Tennessee recruiting battle. It seems like for the last month or so, I'd say 2 months ago, all the talk was Alabama versus Georgia for him. Now everybody's saying it's Georgia versus Tennessee. Alabama is still in this thing. I would not rule them out one bit. He continues to talk to the Alabama coaching staff almost on a daily basis. He's trying to get over to Tuscaloosa again before he announces his decision on October the 14th. Now, you look at Alabama's recruiting class, you say, well, there's no way he's going to join a class with the other guys that are currently committed. Well, why not? Why would he not join, that class? I don't think he's scared of competition. He's also a guy that, would be coming in with this class as opposed to, going to Alabama and all these 5-stars are ahead of him, like it might be maybe at some other schools. So I think he's looking at all aspects of it. I don't know if I would predict Alabama for Mims just yet. I certainly think that Alabama's in the race, but I would still probably lean more towards Georgia and Tennessee just because he's been to both schools. It seems like at least 2 or 3 times over the course of the last a couple months, just on his own. I mean, he can't even visit with the coaching staff when he takes these visits to these schools. So, making those trips over to those schools, he's saying he's hoping to visit Alabama before making that decision. So we'll see if that happens. If that happens, you never know what may happen. But I do think that Alabama still very much in it for Amarius Mims, but I wouldn't bet on them at this time. But I don't buy into this, this belief that he's not going to Alabama because of Tommy Brockermeyer or J.C. Latham. I don't think he cares about that because, like I said, he's going to be on the same level playing field with those guys once he steps on campus. They would all be freshmen, so I don't think that would be the reason. If he goes somewhere else, I think it'd be another reason. So it just maybe a relationship with the coaching staff, or just feels like he's got a better opportunity somewhere else. But I don't think it's because of the kids who are committed in this recruiting class.
All right. And as you guys know, tonight, all super chats go to Andrew Bone. Super chats basically like tips. Hit that $sign there in the chat button right there. And, all super chats go to Andrew Bone, aboneinsider.com. We got to update the super chat leaderboard. I'll post a graphic on YouTube. But right now, they're the leaders. And there's a couple new additions to this list that we need to update. So Randall Williams, obviously, Tony Hill, Bombs, of course, Gary Franklin. I mean, all those guys in the Club 100, and of course, everybody. And if you're not a part of the Super Chat Club, or you're not a part of the Touchdown Club or the Loyalty Club right here on BamaInsider.com, we appreciate a simple thumbs up. It goes a long way, helps our channel get out to other Alabama Crimson Tide football fans, as well as following us on social media, whether that's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that. We appreciate it. But of course, back at BamaInsider.com is where all the coverage goes down. Bone, we got another question, and that's coming from John. What's up, John? Thank you very much for the question. We appreciate it. Update on Tumise Adele and Shamar Turner.
Yeah, 2 of Alabama's top defensive end targets, they're still out there, both uncommitted. We know Tumise Adele decommitted from Ohio State earlier this summer. Alabama's still fighting hard for both of these guys. I don't think either one are close to making a decision at this time. Tumise probably going to take it a little bit, closer to signing day or on signing day. And Shamar Turner, continues to say that he wants to wait it out. He wants to take some visits. He's visited Alabama, visited Texas A&M, has not visited 2 of the other schools in his top 5. That's Georgia and LSU. He wants to visit those schools. So, in terms of, there's a lot of guys that are out there that Alabama's pursuing. And, with only 5 spots remaining, it's going to be pretty tight, come December, come January, when its top targets, start hopefully taking some visits and hopefully making some decisions. So it's going to be very interesting kind of see what happens. But Alabama's still fighting hard for both of them. If I were to pick one who I would say I think Alabama may have a better chance with at this time, I've been saying Shamar Turner for the last couple months, but with Tumise Adele decommitting from Ohio State, being such close friends with Jalen Milroe, I just think Alabama may have a better shot at potentially landing him in this class. Now Shamar Turner, I still think Alabama is very high on his list, but Texas A&M also He likes both of those programs a little bit closer to home. He also visited Texas here recently, and they're certainly pushing very hard for him. So we'll see what happens there. But I think if Shamar Turner gets back to Tuscaloosa, I think there's a good chance he's in this class as well. But Alabama does, in my opinion, want to take 2 more defensive ends. They have one committed in Monkel Goodwine, which, really elite player, but I think they want to try to take 3. If they can get 3, 3 guys that they really love, Monkel Goodwine being one, if they can get Shamar Turner, Tamisi Adelie on board, they'll be extremely happy. And obviously there's some other guys that they're still recruiting at the defensive end position. We've mentioned them before. JT Tuamola, Tyreek Sapp, Corey Foreman, Chambry Jackson, all those guys still being heavily pursued by Alabama at this time.
All right. Another update, or another question rather, from John. He's asking about Xavier Sorey.
Rob Cassidy, who covers recruiting for Rivals.com, actually, I think he's now on the basketball beat, but he attended the IMG Academy Edgewater game on I think it was last Thursday. Xavier Sorey has not played yet this season. I think he's been battling a foot injury, but he was on the sideline, and Rob had an opportunity to kind of spend some time with him and speak to him. And it certainly seems like Alabama, Georgia, Florida are kind of the schools, really fighting hard for him in terms of, I think those are the 3 schools that are kind of out ahead of the others. Now he still likes Auburn, still likes LSU, but I think it comes down to between Florida, Alabama, and Georgia for him. Another one of these guys that's not in a rush to make a decision. He knows all these schools love him. They're all going to probably wait until signing day for him. So he's willing to kind of wait it out, take some visits, and then make that decision. But I do think Alabama, may have a slight advantage for him at this time, but continue to watch out for Georgia, continue to watch out for Florida with him. But Alabama has continued to make a strong impression with him. Sal Sinceri, been the lead recruiter there, done one heck of a job recruiting him thus far, and could be a big win for Coach Sal again in the state of Florida.
All right, Alabama Black Snake. He's asking, what are we doing differently to land players like Terran Arnold, Tamisi Adelie, JT Tuamola, and Xavier Sorey? Obviously, a lot of people want to know about Terran Arnold. What's the movement, and obviously, help Alabama Black Snake out there, Bone.
Yeah, well, I think with the top tier guys that Alabama continues to push for, that they really want in this class. I mean, Alabama currently sits for the number 1 recruiting class in the country, but obviously, if they don't sign any other players, they're not going to finish number 1. Ohio State or Georgia or somebody else is going to finish number 1. So you got to get some of these big dogs that are left out there. You got to get some of these guys on board. Now, I believe Alabama will. And obviously, with COVID-19 and the NCAA, extending the dead period until January 1st, it kind of throws a wrench into things. But with Alabama, it's just continuing to build those relationships, continuing to do FaceTime calls. I think Nick Saban's probably done more FaceTime calls this year than he's ever done before combined. You never really I always heard about maybe 1 or 2 FaceTime calls from Nick Saban during a recruiting cycle. And he's talking to recruits, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times on FaceTime. So he's been very, very active. I think the coaching staff's done a great job, and I think the new strength and conditioning staff has also done a tremendous job. I think that's something that a lot of people don't talk about, that they don't hear. I think if we would have seen. If we would not have seen the recruiting period being shut down and recruits been able to visit campus during the spring, during the summer, I think we'd see maybe a few more commitments on board. I think this new strength and conditioning staff is extremely impressive. I think everybody's been blown away from just from talking to different recruits, seeing that the different players on the team tweet about these guys, how it's just so different, and they're just so impressive. I think with those guys also helping on the recruiting end by FaceTiming, video conferencing with different recruits, sending them different graphics and information. I think that's been a big help for Alabama's class as well.
All right, good stuff, Bone. Appreciate it. Let's see. We got a first super chat coming in. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Vegas man.
Thank you, Vegas.
Appreciate it.
Want a hand or two.
And Vegas man, subscriber for a long time on BamieInsider.com. You can always find him on the recruiting board. He loves recruiting, eats it up. So glad to have you here.
He knows more than me sometimes.
Vegas Man's on top of it. He actually, check this out. Vegas Man actually won the Rivals.com Futurecast, right? I mean, right. I think he got like 1,000 years free on Rivals or something like that. So
I think, I think he got paid pretty well too. Yep. Yeah, I think he got a few $1,000s. And so if you join Rivals, your predictions, you at the top of the list, you're gonna get paid by Rivals.com. So that's another incentive to jump on to Rivals.com.
And of course, there's the free promo code, which is simply Roll Tide. All right, we got another super chat coming in. All right, here we go. Thank you so much. And all the super chats tonight go to Andrew Bone. What is a super chat? A lot of people ask me, what's a super chat? It's basically a tip. I should probably say tip more. It's basically like, if you want to tip the show, it's just like when you go to your favorite bar or whatever, you tip your favorite bartender instead of serving drinks for serving recruiting nuggets. So there you go. Bombs, dropping bombs. Oh, look at this. Look at the new avatar. Bombs is upgraded. I like it.
That's nice. That's real cool.
All right. So Bombs is asking, what's plan B if Alabama don't get a package deal in Xavier Sorey and Terry Arnold? Take it away, Bone.
Vegas and Bombs, thank y'all so much for the tips. It's really appreciated, and very happy to have you guys on our show every single week. But plan B for if they don't get a package deal with Sorey. Well, with Sorey, it's more of I think he's more of a tier 1 type player. You don't turn him down. He's a guy that Alabama really wants. They've recruited him for a long time. He has a spot until National Signing Day. But in terms of taking another linebacker, I just don't see Alabama taking another linebacker if his name's not Xavier Sorey at this time. Now, we've mentioned Christian Zachary a few times on the show. But in my opinion, he's more of a defensive end because he's about 250 pounds right now. So I kind of throw him more in the defensive end category, kind of a tweener between linebacker and defensive end. But in Terry Arnold, obviously Alabama wants him pretty bad. He's been a top priority since day one, and it also looks like he's probably going to wait until signing day. I still think that Alabama, is in great shape with him. I think they are in the driver's seat at this time. Now, once again, excuse me, not going to decide anytime soon. So Georgia, Florida, a lot of these schools still heavily involved with him. He likes a lot of these programs. He's going to kind of let the recruiting process play out. But Alabama still sitting in, I think in good shape for him. But we're not going to see anything from him until probably at least, January or maybe even February.
All right. And thanks again, Bombs and Vegas Man, for the super chats. We really appreciate it. All right. We've had a couple of people go back and forth about ask about the recruiting class. Bone, I mean, it's early. We still got, plenty of time to push through. Does Alabama have enough right now? Do you think that they're going to land the number 1 class in the country when things are said and done?
Well, I think a lot will depend on the final rankings. How many 5 stars, how many 4 stars, Rivals 100 type players are going to end up in this recruiting class. And, currently sitting with 21 commitments, I don't know if that's going to be enough. I think Alabama's going to have to land a couple more guys, a couple more elite guys to finish with the top recruiting class in the country. Because you look at Ohio State, who's currently, just right behind Alabama for the number 1 overall class. And we've seen that kind of flip-flop a few times over the course of the last few weeks. But, Ohio State currently, considered number 1. We're not 100% certain, but it seems like they're sitting number 1 for a pair of 5 stars right now. And that's Emeka Egbuka, the number 1 wide receiver in the country out of the state of Washington. Another kid out of the state of Washington that many feel like is going to end up at Ohio State is JT Tuimoloau, the 5-star defensive end, number 4 overall player in the country out of Seattle. So if Ohio State ends up landing both of those guys, I think they've got the number 1 class in the country. But Alabama still heavily involved with JT Tuimoloau, still could potentially land Tumise Adelie. I mean, there's a lot of guys that could really tilt this thing in Alabama's favor if they're able to land some of these top end guys down the home stretch. But it's going to be a tight recruiting battle, and I just wouldn't rule out some of these other programs that may be outside the top five right now. Oklahoma, Georgia. Those are programs that many people see climbing up the up the team rankings over the course of the next couple months. LSU, that's another program. Think about Corey Foreman and Mason Smith. They keep saying they're going to be they're going to the same school. They continue to say that. Top two, it seems like, of LSU and Georgia right now. What if one of those schools ends up landing both of those guys? So we'll have to continue to wait and see. But Alabama's sitting with number one right now. I think it could go either way with Alabama and Ohio State right now. Just got to let it play out and see what happens.
All right, good stuff. We appreciate the questions. Tanner is asking, which committed prospects have really jumped out to you so far early in the season that could seriously compete for their fifth star?
Yeah, well, there's a couple guys who are, already in that kind of five-star category in terms of Ja'Cory Brooks, J.C. Latham. They're not technically five stars, but Rivals always has 32 to 35 five stars. They're both currently in the top 23, so and I don't think there's anything that's going to change, their rankings much. I think both of them have balled out. They're both going to be five-star recruits. So I don't even want to really kind of name them as future five stars because, in my opinion, they already are five stars. A guy that I really like a lot, that I really hope that the Rivals, national, regional guys go out and see him, is Deontay Lawson. I think he's just an absolute superstar. I think he's having a heck of a senior season right now in Mobile Christian. Many people know about his first game of the season when he battled against UMS Wright, had 24 tackles. I think this guy's an absolute stud and one of the most underrated players in the entire country. So I'd keep an eye on him if he can at least be seen at some point. If he can, at least potentially play in an all-star game, and if they have all-star games at the end of this season, and hopefully he'll get a chance to really shine. But maybe some other guys that I know that the Rival staff is high on. Dallas Turner. It looks like his season is going to finally get going in October. So that's a guy that I'd kind of keep an eye on. And Christian Leary, another wide receiver out of Edgewater in Orlando. That's another guy that many people feel like could earn that fifth star. I know Dallas Turner outside the Rivals 100 right now, but it's kind of more so all the national guys, from what I've been told, just want to see him again. They didn't really want to move him up just yet, just because they had not seen him since, I think, last year. They want to see him a little bit more, but feel like he's got the biggest potential in terms of moving up, potentially having a William Anderson rise in the rankings. We saw William Anderson. I think he was in the kind of 200 range at one point during his senior year. And then he really kind of turned it on, and everybody finally got a chance to see him. And he moved all the way from in the 200s to a five-star by signing day. So that's potentially something that we might see from Dallas Turner as long as he gets to play this season.
All right, another super chat coming in. Braden, thank you very much. We appreciate it, Bone. Give him a shout out.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, the super chat's basically like tips. All tips go to Andrew Bone tonight. So thank you very much. Hope you guys enjoy the content, and not only on the recruiting side, but on the team side. As you know, I'm pumping out a lot of content for you guys on the video front and tons of coverage back at BamaInsider.com. If you're not a subscriber right now, now is the perfect time. Take advantage of that free promo code, which is Roll Tide. Tons of coverage as we gear up for Alabama, who is taking on Missouri. I think right now, 28-point favorite going into that one. A couple other questions going in. There's kind of been a little bit of smoke, I guess, Bone, about maybe Dallas Turner, and if he could potentially flip. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that seemed to be a hot message board rumor about a week ago, and I had an opportunity to speak to Dallas's father the other night, and just did not get that feeling at all. I felt like he's very solid with his commitment to Alabama. They hadn't really been talking to other schools much. Now, are they still listening to other schools? Probably so. Most of these top recruits are still hearing from different schools and talking to them a little bit, but they sounded extremely firm with the commitment to Alabama. So I'm not too concerned about Dallas flipping at this time. And I think he's very anxious to get his season started and get his career started down in Tuscaloosa.
All right, good stuff. Okay. Thank you very much for all the super chats. Going through now is obviously a great time to post your recruiting questions for Bone. And I know we had kind of set maybe a cap on the show, but I mean, there's a lot of questions coming in, so we're just going to roll with it. I mean, no pressure. I mean, if we continue to pass the threshold, I mean, you guys want to talk recruiting, we'll talk recruiting with you guys, of course. Okay. So Tyler is asking any updates on Jordan Gilbert.
Yeah, Jordan Gilbert, one of Alabama's top defensive back targets. I think, it's kind of still the status quo. Not much has changed in his recruitment. Alabama's, still very much involved there. With Alabama, it's kind of tricky because they have four, really good defensive back commitments. I think they're probably going to take, they're definitely going to take five. But will they take six? I think that's kind of the question mark. Will they take two more defensive backs in this class? And Jordan Gilbert's somebody that they've heavily recruited, that they like a lot. He came down to junior day, several months ago. But you still have Terry and Arnold out there. You still have Sage Ryan. You still have JaQuincy McKinstry, even though many people feel like Kool-Aid's going to end up going elsewhere. He's still out there. He's not committed yet. So I think, Jordan Gilbert certainly kind of in the mix, involved. I don't know if Alabama's waiting to see what happens with some other guys before they make a move with him, but he's being treated as certainly being treated as a top target for Alabama. And they talk to him very regularly. He's, they're in his top five, but maybe, just maybe, they have to wait until to see what happens with some of these other guys before taking Gilbert at this time.
All right, yeah, and hey, thank you so much. We appreciate it. All the feedback. We appreciate you guys being here, joining us, and talking recruiting with us here on Tuesday night. Ronnie wants to update on Tyreek Sapp.
Well, kind of like Dallas Turner, he's about to get his season started, so I think that's kind of what he's focused on right now. The NCAA last week coming out with saying that the recruiting dead period is going to be extended until January the 1st. A lot of these recruits hoping to make decisions, hoping to sign in December. It's all going to depend on if these kids, a lot of these kids are going to decide in December. If Tyreek Sapp signs in December, I don't think Alabama's got much of a chance with him, especially if they can't get him back in Tuscaloosa. He's committed to Florida right now. Florida's having one heck of a recruiting year so far. So as of right now, still think he ends up sticking with Florida. But if he ends up making a trip up to Tuscaloosa, then they're going to have a shot.
All righty. As we continue to move through the show, just post your questions in the comment box. I'll get to them when I can. Cameron is asking for an update on Brian Thomas. I mean, we talked about Brian Thomas maybe 1,000 times on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And you never know if something's going to change because things change week to week with a lot of these guys. With Brian Thomas, I hate sounding repetitive with a lot of these kids, but it's still just kind of status quo. He's just kind of waiting. LSU had a big recruiting weekend a few weeks back. He ended up not going on that trip. Kind of hearing that that shouldn't be an indication as to where he stands in his recruitment. But I do think that Alabama is is in great shape with him. I do think it's a top two recruiting battle between Alabama and LSU. I think it's probably gone back and forth many times. So Alabama's pushing hard for him. They really want him to be that fourth wide receiver in this class. He's a top priority target, but at the same time, he does not seem to be in a rush. He wants to make some visits, and I don't know if he's going to end up being able to take the visits that he wants, just because I think he was waiting until the fall to see if he could visit schools like Georgia and Texas A&M, schools that he hasn't seen yet. He's visited Alabama and LSU multiple times, but really wanted to get to A&M in Georgia. And obviously, that's not going to happen, at least not this fall. It may happen in January if he decides to wait. But from everything we've heard, he's probably going to wait and announce it, I guess, at the Under Armour All-American game. I think that's the game he's playing in, if not the U.S. Army All-American game. So one of those two games he's playing in it, and it's probably going to be Alabama or LSU. I just don't see him going to even though Alabama's gotten a few commitments this year that have not visited, I don't see him going to Georgia or Texas A&M without visiting either one of those schools. So it's going to be an Alabama-LSU battle. I think Alabama's in the lead today, but hey, tomorrow it could be LSU. I think it's, like I said, I think it goes back and forth just about every single week, and Alabama has got they've got to stay on top of it every single day recruiting him because, they know it can easily change. But I think they've done a great job thus far in his recruitment.
All right, another super chat coming in. Thank you very much, Hunter. I appreciate it. Asking for a Sorey update. We already talked about Xavier Sorey, but real quick, Bone, kind of give him just the skinny on Xavier Sorey, a prospect we've talked about and a prospect that Alabama is certainly in contention for.
Yeah, thank you very much for the tip, Hunter. Really appreciate it. With Sorey, we did talk about him earlier in the show, but that's no problem at all. I do think that Alabama probably has a slight edge for him at this time, but this is this is going to be a tough recruiting battle all the way until signing day. When he's kind of expected to make that decision. Georgia, Florida, all top 3 schools for him. It's going to be very interesting, kind of see what happens because we continue to hear that Sorey and Terry and Arnold really want to play college football together. It seems like those are the 3 schools that are most consistent in their recruitment, and it seems like Alabama has the edge for both of them at this time. But Georgia could end up getting them, Florida could end up getting them. It's a very, very tight recruiting battle for those 2 guys between those 3 schools.
All right. And we got a question coming in. This is from Vegas Man. Thank you earlier for the super chat, the tip. We appreciate it. Did Christian Zachary supposed to commit in October? I think the staff will give him the green light.
Well, it's possible. It's going to be tough because of the number situation. I mean, we know how tight the numbers are right now. 21 commitments, probably only 5 spots left. You never know what's going to happen on, with the remaining targets on the offensive side of the ball. Alabama's probably waiting to see what's going to happen with Mims. Obviously, still kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with Brian Thomas. And then, you flip over to the defensive side of the ball. There's as we mentioned, there's so many defensive end targets who are out there. JT Tuamola, Shamar Turner, Chambry Jackson, Tamisi Adelie, Corey Foreman, Tyreek Sapp, all these guys are just waiting and waiting and waiting. So it makes it kind of difficult to say, all right, well, we're going to get the green light to somebody, especially in, look at the linebacker position, Xavier Sorey, then defensive back, Terran Arnold and JaQuincy McKinstry and Sage Ryan and Jordan Gilbert. There's a lot of names out there for 5 spots left in this class. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see what Alabama decides to do here. I know they really like Christian Zachary a lot. Is it a top priority position? Not necessarily. He's an elite pass rusher and somebody they like a lot. So we'll probably have to wait another week or 2 to kind of find out if they're going to really push for him before he decides. But he does have that decision date. I believe it's October the 15th, if I'm not mistaken. So they're going to have to make a decision here pretty soon. And you never know if he might decide to push it back just a little bit as well.
All right. Now is a great time to hit that thumbs up. We appreciate the thumbs up. That really helps get our channel out to other Alabama Crimson Tide football fans. And be sure and subscribe to our channel. Most of you probably already are subscribed to our channel, so we appreciate that. And spreading the word about BamaInsider.com certainly helps in our YouTube channel as well. So thank you very much. Hit the thumbs up button. We appreciate it. Got another question coming in. This is from Dorsey, and you just hit on Sage Ryan just a little bit, but Bama made Sage Ryan's top 3. Any chance with him? I know you've talked about him several times being a strong LSU lean.
Yeah, I never put out a top 3 with Alabama, Clemson, and LSU. I think it's more probably a top 2 between Alabama and LSU. I think it's kind of been that way for a few months, probably ever since he visited Alabama for Junior Day earlier this year. Yeah, I do think it's going to be tough for Alabama to land him. A lot of family connections with LSU. Grew up an LSU fan. Obviously, they have a tremendous school for defensive backs, as well as Alabama. But being a home state school, it's probably going to be pretty tough to pull him off. But he's yet to make a decision. I think a lot of people are probably surprised by that he has yet to commit to LSU. So he's kind of taking a slow approach to it, making sure he makes the right decision. Alabama's got a chance. I think he ends up at LSU, but to ask if they have a chance with him, I'd certainly believe so.
All right. I wanted to tell everybody as well. I was going to build out like a quick little graphic. Give me 1 second. But our podcast is now available on iTunes and Apple Podcasts, rather. So what you do if you listen to podcasts and you want to catch our shows or hear the Nick Saban press conference, or you're on the road or, you're working out or whatever, just go to Apple Podcasts and search Bama Insider, and please subscribe to our podcast. And I'll turn this into a podcast right after. So you can listen to Andrew and I talk about recruiting and take your questions, and trying to improve our podcast. And we have so much audio, that we just basically transition to a podcast. So definitely check us out. All right, let's see. We got some more stuff. Just like the Dorito bag. This is my favorite user on here, the Dorito bag. He's such a strong supporter of our channel. I love it. And do like the Dorito bag says, hit the thumbs up and subscribe. We appreciate it. Okay, we got a couple of team questions. Hey, team show is tomorrow night on Wednesday. We'll do it a little after 8 p.m. We got Nick Saban tomorrow night. We'll do practice footage, and then we'll talk team right here on BamaInsider.com. I agree, Jonathan. Bone is the man. Great work. Bone, give Jonathan a shout out.
Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate it, man.
All right. Let's see what other recruiting questions we have as we kind of work towards the later part of the show. How about this one? Will Corey Foreman or Mason Smith visit? Obviously, those guys can't visit, but they could come if just by themselves, right? Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, they've taken a few visits. They visited LSU, visited Georgia. Of course, that was before the season started. They were able to get up to both campuses. Now, they couldn't visit with the coaching staff. Couldn't go inside the facilities, but they could tour the campus and, see different things. But Alabama certainly would love to get both of these guys on campus. They keep saying they're a package deal. They're going to the same school, and it seems like that's, even though I've said many times before, you never really see that happen, and you don't. I mean, you really don't see this happen very often. It certainly seems like with these guys, they want to play together, even though they've, they don't really, I wouldn't say they're best friends or anything. I think they've obviously gone on a couple trips together. They met each other at a camp, I think last year, and, kind of hit it off and really wanted to play college football together. So there's a lot of talk about, them going to the same school, and a lot of talk that it's going to be Georgia or LSU, but Alabama is in the running for both of them at this time. They want to get those guys on campus, very much. I think it's going to be very hard to do during the season now that we're in the season. It's going to be hard for any recruits to visit campus or go to games, because you're not getting tickets to games. You're not being brought in by coaches. You're not being flown in on Saturday morning or Friday night after your high school football game. Well, with Corey Foreman, he's not there. California's not playing high school, so he could visit, but I just don't see him making a trip to Tuscaloosa this season. Potentially after the season, if those guys decide to wait until January, February to make decisions, then yes, we potentially see those guys on campus. But if those guys, let's say they decide in at an All-American game in January, probably not going to see them in Tuscaloosa. But if they wait it out, then we probably will see them maybe sometime in January.
Okay. How about Tanner's asking, how highly ranked do you think Kadarius Callaway finishes? I feel he is very underrated. I know you've talked about him before, and you probably feel he's underrated as well, right, Bone?
Well, I do. I think you can go watch his high school, highlight film, his junior tape, and it's going to blow you away. I mean, he's a guy that had close to 1,000 yards receiving as a junior, had 11 interceptions as a junior. He's rated as the number 6 player in the state of Mississippi. He should be rated number 1 player in the state of Mississippi, in my opinion. But I do also think that the rival staff, he's one of those guys that they just haven't seen. I think they wanted to see him during the spring. That's usually a time where you go out and you're able to see kids. They come to camp, they compete. You see them at different college camps as well. So unfortunately, nobody had a chance to see him, and I think he's got an opportunity to potentially really move up in the rankings. He's like I said, I think he's an elite player. He's listed 6'1", 196 pounds on Rivals.com, and I think that's. I just don't think it's been updated in a while. Maybe I'll go in there and update it tonight. I think he's close to about 210 pounds at this time. And I know many people see him as a safety, but I think he also has the ability to play corner. I think that's what Alabama likes the most about him is his versatility. He's a 4.50 40 type guy. So just because he's 210 pounds, I don't think people need to write him off as just playing safety. I think he can play corner just as well. So we'll see what happens once he gets to campus, once he develops. Works with the defensive back coaches, Nick Saban, Carl Scott, Charles Kelly, and they'll figure it out. And Pete Golden, they'll figure out what position he fits in best at. And I think that's another thing about missing summer camps. A lot of these guys, Alabama probably took. As defensive backs, they would have had an opportunity to see them in camp this summer, been able to work them out, and really had a good feel as to what position they were going to play once they got to college. Rather than really not seeing them during the spring, during the summer, or and even during the fall, except for on film, and then kind of having to figure out once they get on campus.
All right, good stuff. Dorsey is asking Bone, do you think Dallas Turner will get a recruiting bump like William Anderson did last year? I think he deserves one on Rivals.
Yeah, I kind of went over this earlier. If you didn't see it, that's fine. I think with Turner, he certainly got a chance to make a strong impression. I think with him having a senior season, that's going to help. I think his season is supposed to start first or second week of October. So, I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on him. A lot of people very interested to kind of see how he performs. And, as I said about William Anderson earlier, William Anderson was in the 200s in the rankings during his senior season. And then, unbelievable senior season, goes to All-Star game, dominates, moved up all the way to a 5-star. So, this is certainly a situation where we might see the same results out of Dallas Turner.
All right. As we kind of wind down towards the end of the show, Jonathan wants a score prediction, Bone. I mean, he's asking for it. I mean, Alabama's a 28-point favorite. I don't know if you're going to take the points. I mean, Missouri. And by the way, Power Missouri on Rivals, they do a great job. It's our sister website under the rivals.com network. Today, they had an article that said 7 players are out this weekend, not 12, but 7. 5 of those guys had tests that were inconclusive. Then they came back negative. We'll talk about Alabama and Missouri tomorrow night on the team show. Now knowing that, Bone, what's your score prediction for Alabama, Missouri?
Well, I was on a podcast earlier today with some guys, and I threw out 40. I think I threw out 45-10. I think that was my prediction, my score prediction for the game. I said, I'm not sure, which way it's going to go, which half Alabama is going to score the most points. And I said maybe they come out in the first half and just blow them out in the first half. But they could start out slow. I mean, I think everybody's going to be probably a little rusty, but everybody's going to be so fired up to get out there and finally being able to play. You just never know how it's going to turn out. But I'm seeing 42-14, 45-10 type game, big win for Alabama on Saturday, no doubt.
All right. Okay. All right. As we kind of close out, we'll take this last one. Can Kyrie Jackson be a starter when he gets to campus next season?
Yeah, I think my neighbor's car alarm's going off right now. Hopefully it's not mine, but I think Alabama loves Kyrie Jackson. I think with Patrick Surtain Jr. potentially, leaving early for the NFL draft. I think there's a chance that Kyrie can come in and pick up right where Patrick Surtain leaves off. So he's certainly an elite player. I think Alabama feels like he's one of the best junior college players that they've recruited in the last couple of years. So I think he's definitely got a chance to make an impact early on in his career.
All right, good stuff to end the show. And Bone, we need to make sure your car's not being stolen.
That's clearly not my car. The alarm went off. So thanks to my neighbors for.
All right, you can catch us tomorrow night as we talk team. As we talked about earlier, we might cut down these shows a little bit just because the class is so full and the class is already flexed on everybody being that they are ranked number 1 in the Rivals.com recruiting rankings. Hey, don't forget to purchase your copy of Andrew Bone's book. I'll bring up the details right now. Bone, give them the details on where they can get your book, The Road to Bama, Incredible Twists and Improbable Turns Along the Alabama Crimson Tide Recruiting Trail by yours truly, Andrew Bone.
That's right. The Road to Bama officially comes out 1 week from today, September the 29th. Very excited about it. I think Alabama fans are really going to enjoy it. 18 chapters of former Alabama greats, their life growing up, their recruiting journey, and obviously a lot of twists and turns involved in each chapter. So it was a lot of fun writing about the top players in Alabama history, from Leroy Jordan to Johnny Musso to Cornelius Bennett, David Palmer, D'Amico Ryans, Brody Croyle, Trent Richardson, and Tua Tagovailoa. So it's a lot of fun talking to those guys, and I think a lot of people are going to be very let's see, what's the word I want to use? Just it's going to be an eye-opening book for a lot of guys. I'll just say that, and I think it's nothing bad, but I think a lot of people are going to really enjoy the heck out of this book. I know I did writing it, and I hope a lot of people will enjoy reading it.
All right, so you can we'll put the link where to purchase his book.
Yeah, you can go to Amazon, Barnes&Noble, Books A Million, Triumph Books. Triumph is my book publisher based out of Chicago. You can go to all those websites now and pre-order it, and I would be very thankful for anyone who purchases a copy of this book, because I think you'll really enjoy it, because it covers a lot of history of the University of Alabama football program, and obviously a lot of history of these former Alabama greats.
All right, good stuff, and we'll put them in the description box. Bone, it's always fun to catch up with you to talk recruiting. Tomorrow night is our team night. You got Nick Saban, his final press conference before Alabama takes the field for the first time during the 2020 season against Missouri. TV, ESPN. Time is 6 p.m. My name